Vicky from Name Me Now. Name Me Now is an app that brings all digital interaction on a high street together into one place, bringing shopfront advertising beyond traditional boundaries into the palms of hands of smartphone users in the local community, and giving those businesses that don't have a digital presence a level playing field on the high street with some of the bigger brands. So the idea for Name Me Now came from school holidays whilst I was a teacher. Any of you that know any teachers will know that that's when teachers tend to go and get their hair done, their nails done, and anything else that they need to get done. I was sitting at a hairdresser's on a weekday morning, and it was myself, 4 hairdressers and 3 empty chairs. And I was an analyst in a previous life, and once an analyst, always an analyst, and I'm looking at these empty chairs. I'm wondering how I could help them generate revenue from these empty chairs. Why were they available? Were they last minute cancellations? Was their advertising ineffective? And it was actually my time at the backwash then when I was asking them lots of questions, how would they usually treat this situation? Would they use social media? This particular business used an A-board and would write walk-in prices available, and that message then only ever reaches as far as the pavement or people walking past. So the idea started to formulate around using smartphones to push those sort of last minute opportunities, opportunities that otherwise would be missed out into the local community to people who could benefit from maybe a cost saving on a last minute basis. The idea started to evolve when I had some time in Ireland. I spent a year researching the business, walking up and down high streets, speaking to businesses, and my first port of call was a hairdresser, thinking, this is the type of business I can help. And sure enough, this particular business said there are 10 hairdressers, we're all self-employed within the same business, and I alone, this particular hairdresser that I was speaking to, she said I alone have at least five 1-hour slots free per week that I would be able to push out. They didn't have a digital booking platform. A lot of their operations were manual, they took bookings via a diary. So I thought I was onto a winner here. I started talking to other businesses. There was a bakery that threw away €300 of retail value of bread every day. And then I spoke to a greengrocer thinking this is my typical business, perishable goods. And he actually said, and this was sort of a turning point for validation of the idea, he said, I'm all right. I put weekly offers out on chalkboards outside. I managed my stock effectively. And I I started talking to him about pricing and what, if he knew of any other greengrocers that might benefit from a last minute advertising opportunity. And he said, don't get me wrong, he said, whilst I don't have last minute advertising uses, I would want to be part of, if the community were part of a digital high street, I'd want to be part of it too. Because those offers that were on the chalkboards, that are weekly offers, standard advertising. So the idea started to come about then evolved from last minute opportunities into pushing out messages that are usually analogue, and giving those the digitally underserviced businesses a voice. The lessons keep coming, and I think that's really important. You never know everything. There will always be someone else who's more of an expert in a particular field than you are. I think the second that you start to feel complacent and don't continue to push forward with your thinking, your vision, constantly evaluate where you are, and also when it comes to leaning on other people, validating their expertise, whether or not you might have someone who professes to be an expert in a particular field, and maybe bouncing off people that you trust, sort of saying, look, I'm speaking to someone about legal, accountancy, or whatever it may be, and leaning on those people around you that you trust, surrounding yourself with people who've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, or at least can facilitate what you're trying to achieve, and learning to trust people, building that network of trust, and then expanding that network, but with people who can really add value. It's much better to find those people that don't add value sooner and move on, and keep progressing, keep things moving forward. But I definitely advise people to lean on those around you. And the ecosystem in South Wales and in Wales in general is such a collaborative ecosystem. There is always someone there who's prepared to help. The best form of support that we've had as a business would actually be those organisations that signpost you to other people that can support as well. When we first started off, we were fortunate enough to get onto Accelerator Wales, which was based at Welsh Ice, run by Town Square, and I was also accepted onto a programme that was run by a bank. The best bit of advice I had, I approached Mandy, a lady who worked for Town Square, and I said, I've got these 2 accelerator opportunities. What do I do? And she said, take all the business advice that you can get as long as you can afford the time. I digested that. There were 2 different offerings. One, highly driven city centre, 70 people in a room, driven mindset environment, and the other one was a more collaborative approach to supporting people through a workshop base, which would give you real in-depth insight into the real core business competencies that you needed to move things forward, which was more focused with 5 businesses in a room and more tailored to your specific needs. I think the combination of both of those added rocket fuel to the business, because you had both driven environments, but two totally different networks of individuals, which then acted as a catalyst to moving things forward a lot faster than they would have just choosing one. After a year in Ireland, I moved back to Wales, and whilst I was familiar with some of the support that was available in Ireland, I started looking around for the same sort of support here in Wales, only because I knew it was available elsewhere. There must be something here, and I rang the local authority, which they put me in they sent me in the direction of business starter grants and that sort of thing. I was directed to Business Wales following my call with the local authority. And I felt that the opportunities that this business brought, the conversations that I had was around formulating this as a lifestyle business, and the support that a lifestyle business would need. It was only when I sort of started almost begging, ringing round, speaking to people and saying, this is bigger than just a lifestyle business. Not yet, it's a concept at this point in time. But it's very difficult to persuade someone. You're not going to persuade everyone that your concept is fantastic. And I think the network that I then found, which was Welsh Ice, they embrace every sort of idea. They encourage, they support. And from there then was introduced to the pre-revenue accelerator, and then following on from that, the AGP. But that initial, the thought process, I know that there must be things available. I'm going to the local authority, they must know. That sort of failed for me. And then the initial contact with Business Wales, I would say that really didn't identify what I was trying to achieve. So I would encourage people to keep going. If you feel that the support that you're getting isn't quite right, and constantly reevaluate, and I keep saying that, until someone listens and hears, and they might challenge, and they might challenge your business concept, but that makes it stronger. Find yourself an environment of supportive people who will challenge, but in a constructive friend sort of way. Key quality I feel the entrepreneurs, startups require would be resilience. I don't say that I have that in bucket loads, but I think that the challenges that I've had and had to face and overcome, some people have used the word resilience when they've looked at what I've been able to achieve against some of the challenges that I've had. When I moved back to Ireland, to Wales, as a single mum, I had a shell of a property. I moved back into my property with no furniture or anything of that nature, and I knew what I wanted to try and build. So when you say built it from the bottom up, it has been from nothing. So my first step at that point was to look for some form of income, and I was quite fortunate to have a teaching qualification in my back pocket, which is a fantastic qualification to have. I enjoy teaching. I like to be able to change and to grow and to share knowledge, and that in itself has lent itself to growing a business as well. So I started to supply teach, and that was sufficient for a period of time whilst I started validating the business even further. And it was around about that time that I then eventually found Welsh Ice. So I was running 2 accelerator programs alongside each other, having meetings with Ken Skates one day and then the next day being in front of a class full of 30 kids who had absolutely no idea what I was trying to achieve. And there was one lesson that I went into, and there were 2 young girls who said, "Oh, we don't follow the science syllabus. We cover life skills in this lesson." Okay, and there was no particular work. They finished this course of work, and I said, "Okay, take a seat. What does life look like for you?" And they said, "I want to be a hairdresser." The other wanted to be a beautician. What does that look like? Does that look, do you go into work? Do you work for someone else? And these 2 girls had not ever even contemplated the fact that they could potentially work for themselves. And I shared the journey with them. I said, "You know what I do when I'm not here in school with you guys?" "No, miss." And I told them about, what I'd been building and this app, this concept. Hadn't written a line of code at that point in time, and started to talk about that in reference to what they wanted to try and achieve in life, and just seeing people's responses to what I was doing outside of school was really, interesting. A time came in September 2017 where I had to make a choice. I was going to jump wholeheartedly into the bit, and that is a difficult choice. There are milestones that you reach, and you generally sort of judging as you're going along, constantly evaluating, is now the time to jump. Do I now throw everything into it and stop that level of income that that had been coming in? Because that's almost sort of your life raft, it's your comfort blanket, if you like. We were close to investment. We'd already had a term sheet in. We hadn't quite found match funding. We'd had some people put money into the business as a loan. So yeah, I could potentially sustain that level of income. So I took the jump, and those sort of decisions along the way, the milestones, they keep coming. When do I now go, okay, I need to ramp up the team? When do I say, okay, I need to go for the next round of investment? Constantly evaluating against all different sorts of factors, the potential sales pipelines, and the staffing levels that you would need to bring that sales pipeline in, the marketing levels if you've got sufficient funding. It's a series of, it's constant evaluation. So there have been times where I've looked at the bank account and there was £12 in the bank account, and I was fortunate enough to have a lot of people around me who believed in what I was trying to achieve. And I think, my parents, Mum is from a mining community, Dad is from a farming background, and we're from the heart of the valleys, we're from Pontypridd. And Mum then aspired to be a nurse and was a nurse for 50 years and has got a shiny gold medal from the Queen for achieving that. Dad, 47 years serving in South Wales Police Force. They're proud to have served their community. Their work ethos is second to none. I aspire to have their work ethos, and I think that that work ethic is something that, whilst I'm striving to achieve what I feel they've achieved in their lifetime, that that's a great goal to aim for. And equally, they often sit down and say, well, we couldn't do what you do. And to see their pride is, a huge sense of achievement. And I feel that being a single mum and having a 13-year-old daughter who is looking at your every move, I don't feel pressure in that. I feel as though, she'll always tell me that, if I like something, if I like maths, she doesn't like maths. If I like Nimi now, she doesn't like Nimi now. It's natural. However, she came home from school the other day and said, "Mum, I really nailed a pitch in school today," not realising that she'd come up with this, the vocab, she's been listening, she's heard me pitch, she's been exposed to this environment. And sure enough, there'd been a Welsh lesson where they had to pitch a business idea. I'd offered no support, much to my disappointment, because I do like to try and help her wherever I can, but she'd done it all herself. And it's those moments where I realise that there are little eyes watching, and that fills me with pride. So I feel as though it's my family, where I've come from, the resilience, the culture, the mindset from the area where I grew up. It is pretty much we're a collective of people that work for other people. We're inherently, a workforce that have worked in the mines, in the steelworks, and we're only a few generations away from our ancestors that were working for other people. And I think entrepreneurship can be quite alien to people, and hearing neighbours and friends, family talking about me doing something slightly different to the norm, they're quite proud. They don't quite understand it, and I've also had there's one guy who I was in school with, it was actually my registration class, and he appeared in the community, in the startup community that I was in. I said, "Hey Mark, what are you doing here?" And he said, "I saw something on your Facebook post. I didn't get in touch with you directly, but I wouldn't be here had I not seen that." He'd found ICE through a Facebook post. So, if there are little eyes watching, if there are other eyes watching, if there are people from the community that have got eyes watching, I hope that, they realise that it is for them, that is such an important message. Yes, you might be from a culture where you've worked for other people, and that is okay too, because some people are quite risk averse. If you've got a great idea, it minimises the risk. If you've got a good group of people around you, it minimises the risk. You get these things in place before you start moving forward. And, my message to anyone is, it is for you. Don't think it's not. Building Nimi now has allowed me a great degree of flexibility. I think the misconception exists that if you're building a tech startup, you've got a vision for something great, that means that you've got to make compromises. It's totally to the contrary, if you like. I've been able to manage my workload around being there for my daughter, and I feel that it is really important that the work-life balance of having your own business and driving something forward and taking them on that journey with you as well. It's important that people know that flexibility is there. You can, as long as you're managing your list, you can work until the early hours of the morning. There's certain times of the day that you might need to be there, and be there for a small family, or as a single parent, or for your spouse, your partner, or whatever commitments that you've got. Building this has given me that flexibility and not taking it away, where you might not have that flexibility in a 9-to-5 job. Building a startup is not a 9-to-5 job. It's 24/7, and it does not stop. So therefore you can choose when you slot in your personal life around work, and when you slot in your work around your personal life. I'd like to say that I take every opportunity, and I think that's critical, almost, that you don't let valuable opportunities pass you by, constantly evaluating whether they are valuable or not. And a great example of that is when we realised that the PR that we were putting out, it wasn't generating sort of a UK-wide the UK-wide marketing campaign that we expected, and we quite cheekily put out sort of a headline, streets ahead of Google at one point, thinking, someone's going to pick this up. Not that we were better than Google by any stretch of the imagination, but that we had released our augmented reality before Google, and just coining a phrase, if you like. So we adapted, started looking around for other ways of creating a nationwide buzz, if you like, to the in the most effective way that we could, in the absence of a national paper picking something up. And looking around at national awards, we supported our pilot community Cowbridge through the Great British High Street Award. They were successful in achieving a Rising Star Award for their use of digital. Part of that comes from not just using digital as a town, but having the foresight to use an app that would then be able to harness the collective power of other towns as well. And the second award that we were nominated for was the NatWest Great British Entrepreneur Award. Again, a national based award, so a national message, if you like. And the third one was Pictured Palace, a fantastic programme that we got involved with, and so fortunate enough to go all the way to the Palace. Being selective in terms of what you're applying for or what you're accepting nominations for is really, really important. So we chose the three awards, if you like, to focus on, so that we weren't distracted by anything else. And our key focus and the objective there was creating a national message. I think it's important that when you make decisions that you're constantly evaluating, does this achieve what the objective that we're setting out to achieve? We set out to create a national message. It didn't quite work in terms of this cheeky little headline that we put out there. So we adapted and we created our own national message through other means. Impact. People asking for impact ahead of being able to validate something. For example, the benefit of NEMI now comes when multiple towns work together. You need something like blitz marketing in order to grow a brand so consumers are aware of it. We, on the budget that we were on in Cowbridge, we managed to get some buoyancy. We come to Cardiff, the challenge is there. So asking for impact, if you like, at that point is slightly too early, because we will bring people, we will do that, but let us grow. And the misunderstanding of what recent thing that, a recent challenge, if you like, was around, understanding how a tech startup works. You validate something, you bolt something else on, you validate some more, you bolt something else on. It will never go to market, first off, how it's going to look in 2 to 3 years' time. However, we did build a prototype plus, if you like, which had to be better than just your average prototype, because it was business facing. We couldn't give businesses something that resembled a WhatsApp group and expect them to base their reputation on us, something that looked like a wireframe. So yeah, we did release the 3 digital tools: advertising, messaging, and transacting, in a format that was business B2B ready. Does it have a long way to go? Yes, it does. There are so many things that we need to validate before bolting them on. People who are quite commercially minded and have never gone on that journey, and talk about radio, someone who sells radio, the advertising is there, it's ready, it's all big, it's all flashy and what have you, that when you're going on a journey where you've sort of like clawed your way through, they're impatient, and they don't quite understand that, the next step now, second round of funding, and let's bolt everything on. I'm okay with that, and I'm okay with managing that message to them, but there might be people out there that haven't been on that journey and might fall over at that hurdle where they get that first challenge. The good thing is that expectations of you are high because of the brand and because of the concept or what have you. But our prototype, if you like, is the community that we brought alive, not the tech itself. There are so many people out there, Groupon being one of them, who built Groupon now over in Chicago. It fell flat. They built the tech alone. There are people that are building, platforms, tech, and haven't taken the same to market as us. They're falling flat because they're not validating as they go along. We haven't just gone in and thrown everything at it. We have, made sure that we're building something that is fit for purpose, and I think that can be quite frustrating for people. I encourage anyone to, if you're admiring some work that somebody else has done, if someone has inspired you, if someone is leading the way in your sector, there's always ways to get in touch with them, and more often than not they get a warm fuzzy feeling from giving you a help along the way, and more, always ready, well I am, to share the journey and to share the pitfalls, to share the successes. There have been way more successes than there have been pitfalls, but there are some. You pick yourself up and you keep going. if other people can benefit from me falling over and from my journey for what's been around about 2.5 years now, you know, that 2.5 years is worth something. And that 2.5 years and that, I'd like to say wealth of experience, but it's, you know, that journey, if that can be a benefit to someone else, I'd encourage them to get in touch with me or someone else within their sector. People want to help. I want to help, and I know that there's so many people out there that are prepared to share their experience. Open LinkedIn, find them on LinkedIn, stalk their profile, find out who they're connected to. You may have mutual connections. There's nothing wrong with dropping them a line. If you saw my message box, you'll see that some of them remain unanswered. They'll respond eventually. And I've had some people that it might have taken 6 months before they might have seen an article or heard about what we're trying to achieve. They'll get in touch eventually when they hear what you're trying to do. So keep going, be resilient, make sure that you're making those connections, but valuable connections, and lean on those people around you, and lean on those new people that you haven't met yet that you aspire to be like. Mindset is something I need to work on, but you know, that's what I got from Boston. I mean, crikey, just come back from there and going, right, okay, this is anyway.